Welcome to Alberta Conservation Association's Harvest Your Own podcast, the resource for everything hunting, navigating through the field, the butcher shop, and the kitchen. Life is all about great food. Let's get started.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Brad Fenson, an avid outdoor enthusiast who has worked as a freelance journalist, photographer, and public speaker for over 3 decades. I have hunted, fished, and foraged all my life and hope to share my passion for the outdoors. Along the way, I want to encourage everyone to harvest wild proteins and enjoy the satisfaction of providing the next meal for your family. Our goal is to educate, entertain, and inspire individuals to get outdoors and create a connection between food, health, and your future meals. Welcome to Harvest Your Own. Today we have a special guest from southern Alberta. Biologist, hunter, angler, grew up, I'd say, on the edge of the backwoods, lucky to experience that type of lifestyle. Moved to Alberta when she was younger and has lived here ever since. Sarah Vriend, how are you today?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. Tell us a little bit more about Sarah. I had a bit of an introduction from what I know of you, but tell us more about Sarah.
Yeah, sure. So, I was born in Nipawin, Saskatchewan, where we lived on an acreage. My dad was a grain farmer. Sometime after my dad switched jobs, my family and I moved to Alberta just before I started grade 2, so we could be closer to work for my dad. After high school, I went to post-secondary and got a forestry diploma from NAIT. And then right before I got married, my husband Sam and I moved to Lethbridge so that he could work as a wildlife biologist. And I could do the ecosystem management, fish and wildlife degree from Lethbridge College.
Oh, nice.
And it was there that I discovered my passion for agrology work in rangeland and pasture management. And I now work at Alberta Conservation Association doing just that.
Yes, well, you're in a good area for that. There's just a little bit of grass in southern Alberta.
Oh, yeah. Sam and I, too, we're expecting our first child this December, and we're both really excited.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, that's special times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we Sam and I both hunt and fish, so we get to share a lot of things together.
Oh, good.
And since I've been with him, I started bow hunting with him, and we both recently took up waterfowl and upland game bird hunting, which has been a lot of fun.
We're fortunate in Alberta to have such a wide diversity, and I went to college in Lethbridge, so I know exactly the region and sort of what your passions are as well. And man, there's a lot to do there if you like hunting and fishing.
Oh, so much. Yeah. No, it's been really fun just to be able to do hunting at different times of the year.
Yeah, and what I miss about that smaller city or small town approach is being able to just zip out the back door and be in some place where you can hunt and fish within literally minutes.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's places where we duck hunt that's like 5 minutes from our place.
Yeah, those are the perfect spots. And I have to say, I'm a little bit jealous growing up in the Nipawin country in Saskatchewan. The fishing is outstanding, and I've got several people that live, or friends that live there, and they really enjoy the hunting there too. They've got some of the early and first migrants of waterfowl coming out of the north. Their moose populations are decent. Their elk population is growing. So you grew up in a very, I would say it's an outdoors person's paradise.
Oh, yes. Yeah, no, totally. I've got family and friends there that they fish there, they waterfowl hunt, they moose hunt, they grouse hunt, like everything you can think of.
Yeah, basically right in your backyard.
Yep.
So do you remember much of your childhood before you moved to Alberta?
Yeah, definitely that. I definitely remember more of the outdoor lifestyle and a lot of the hunting components of growing up there. It was before I was in grade 2, so
yeah.
I was still pretty young and couldn't actively participate in a lot of things. But go ahead.
No, I asked the question because you said your dad was a grain farmer, and I know farmers that hunt, but the majority of them, their passion is farming, and they really don't do a lot else. They're tied to the farm, and that's their love in life, and it's they don't get a chance to get out and do things. But I know other farmers that are passionate hunters, and they pay attention to everything when they're in the fields, and they probably know more than most of us, and it takes things to the next level. So I'm just trying to figure out exactly what your background is.
Yeah, like I definitely remember like tagging along in the combine with my dad and stuff when I was little. And like a lot of my family that farms still even now, they also hunt. So I think maybe our family in particular just was able to do both a little better.
Oh, good. And you, in your background, you have some First Nations.
Yes, I do. So, I was more recently officially recognized as a status Indian and belong to the Yellow Quill Band, which is Soto. And so this is from my mom's side. And like, honestly, I don't know a lot about my history. And although I'm always trying to read up on the Soto people where I can, it's been really difficult to learn about their ways since they're such a small group and there's very limited information.
Okay. But
I did take an Indigenous Studies course in college, and I really care about preserving and utilizing traditional knowledge when it comes to hunting. And also, since I'm an agrologist, I frequently will learn the Indigenous uses of plants on the landscape.
Well, that's pretty special too. And did you get to spend a lot of time with your mom in the outdoors? Do you recall those things?
Yeah, so particularly with my mama, who is my mom's mom. So I tried every summer, if I can, to go berry and mushroom picking in Saskatchewan with her.
Yeah.
So that's kind of something special that we do.
Yeah, and it's that, traditional knowledge that's passed down from generation to generation that's so important.
Yeah. And she really likes hunting too. So in the fall, sometimes she likes going grouse hunting or getting a moose if she can. But
yeah. Oh, very good.
Hard to make it out there.
Yeah, I've read a lot of books recently with the history of our First Nations in Canada and Inuit people and their diet and how they lived off the land, and I find it very intriguing. It's very interesting, and it really isn't that long ago. Like in terms of history, it's a very short time ago that people survived on their own on the land without a lot of influence from anyone.
Yeah, it's super interesting. It's just so unfortunate, like the loss of knowledge that it's particularly because the Soto people from like the Yellow Quill Band are such a small group.
Right.
It's hard to not a lot has been passed down.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you remember things like the mushroom and berry picking and stuff like that. Do you recall your diet as a kid? Did you eat a lot of wild game at home?
Yeah, we definitely did. Like I always remember being told that I was having deer or moose for supper. We would always cook up the grouse after grouse hunts. I remember too when we moved to Alberta that my mom thought that the smell of beef was really, really gross. It was just such a fattier meat that, definitely I think took our whole family a little bit to get used to eating beef when we stopped hunting for a while.
Yeah, I always find it interesting, the adjustment phase for people. I know lots of people that grew up eating wild game and they had the same reaction. The fat within the beef and the smell of the tallow, because it's not really fat, it's tallow, is offsetting for some people. And it's funny, people that have grown up eating beef think that deer and moose and elk has a strange smell, especially.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's what you get used to, but it's interesting how you can change your taste buds. I know that my wife Stephanie, she grew up where they didn't eat much wild game. They had she had some at the neighbors once in a while, but they only knew domestic meat. But as life went on, that's all we eat at home now, and now she has problems eating other stuff. So it's funny how
even fish too. Like fish it's not as flavorful from the sort.
Yeah, I've never thought of it like that, but you're right. There's I don't know what it is, but fresh fish is really hard to beat once you get used to having it. Like we sort of have a rule around here is we eat everything fresh. We don't freeze it because it gives us an excuse to go back out fishing again.
That's good.
This podcast is produced for Harvest Your Own, a program dedicated to those who want to reconnect with food and health through their experiences outdoors. HarvestYourOwn.ca is a resource for individuals to learn more about hunting and the outdoors. There's information to get you started and ensure that your compass stays pointed in the right direction to be successful. Where's your next meal coming from?
So you moved to Alberta as a young lady, young child, actually. Grade 2 isn't very old. So when did you
Mm-hmm.
actually take up hunting again?
Yeah, so it wasn't until I did a hunter education course in grade 7.
Yep.
Where I kind of reconnected with that part of my past, and I asked my dad if we could go hunting, and he was more than happy to figure out where we could go. And it just so happened that one of his coworkers had a cabin where we were going to start hunting, and his coworker hunted himself. So yeah, we just went, and since then, every year my family makes it a huge priority to go hunting every year to fill the freezer.
Yeah, and it's funny when you grow up with that lifestyle and that diet, you get away from it. Sometimes life forces you away from it. You always remember it, and then when you rekindle that experience, it really becomes obvious how important it is. Like, it's funny you say, now every year we make sure we go because you get those memories back, you get that special proteins back in your diet, and it's like, man, I want to make sure that that's there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you took the initiative to take hunter ed, and you got out hunting. What was the first thing you hunted?
I think for the first year I was not successful, but my dad ended up getting a deer, and it was just really exciting. So we just kind of started off just with deer, and then once we started to kind of build priority, I think I had gotten my calf moose in my second year of hunting with my dad.
Yes, well, that's to start with a moose, that's impressive, I'd have to say. I don't think most people start with a moose, but tell us a little bit about your moose hunt.
Yeah, so I harvested actually like a bull moose a few years ago.
Yep.
And that was a really exciting and rewarding opportunity. I never would have thought that day was going to be successful based on the morning. My husband was tagging along, and the days before we had noticed a pattern with some moose in the area. So I made a game plan for us to cut them off in the morning before they got to this larger piece of bush.
Yep.
And when we arrived in the morning, I was disappointed to see that they were already making their way to where we thought they were going to go. But there had been like 10 or 12 moose altogether. So we went to look for tracks to see if they crossed the final piece of open terrain before the heavy bush. And much to my disappointment, we counted the number of sets of tracks and figured we missed the opportunity. But on the way back towards the road, I was pretty disappointed as that was the last day I could be out hunting for the year. And then I saw 2 large dark bodies walking the same path the others had, and sure enough, they were both bulls. So I had to run in the snow to get cover and find a good place to make a shot. But there was a little while where I couldn't see where they were because of this big hill. But once I got over the hill and got set up, I just had to hope that they hadn't crossed the open area yet. And it seemed like forever to wait, but eventually the first bull stepped out, and yeah.
And you didn't have to wait to see the second one.
No.
Oh, that's very exciting. Now, I'm impressed that, as a first-time moose hunter or someone that hasn't been out a lot, that you patterned animals, knew where they were crossing, but is it the agrologist in you that knows how to look at your feet and looking at the grass to count tracks and notice and pay attention to all that stuff?
Yeah, I'd say like that's probably like something that's like really fun for me that maybe a lot of hunters don't do. And like I know that like a lot of hunters like know generally what species to look for, but like as an agrologist, like I do know quite a few plants, so it's just like, and like the soils and the way the topography works with plants.
Right.
So it's really cool to just kind of be able to, it's like you're figuring out a puzzle when you're out there. You're looking at the plants, the topography, like the wind direction, and you're just using all of those things to help you figure out what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I always get accused of over-analyzing things, but I think the more you pay attention to and the more things that you're aware of in the environment and the more things that, for instance, with you, a moose would use and where they travel and why they travel and whether it's in the deep hollows or on the side of a hill or wherever it is, it just helps you every time you go out. You learn a little bit about them and their habits and why they do it, and it helps you put together those equations for success to find them in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like even since we've been hunting in this area in Alberta, since like we've been here, we just have really gotten to know the land, and even just like to know where there's been some recent changes in some of the areas that we've been hunting in. There's been a lot of forestry work. So just even to like anticipate where they would have gone next even.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I understand what you're saying fully. I've got a special place that I hunt that I've been hunting for 30 years. And when I go there, if the sun's out and the wind's blowing in a certain direction, I know exactly where to go to hunt my deer. You just get so intimate with it that you really understand it. It's always fun to hunt new places, but man, to get back to those special spots that you learn and pay attention to and know the patterns, know the animals and stuff, that it sort of takes hunting to the next level for yourself.
Yeah, no, for sure. I really like going back to the same place. Yeah.
So the actual moose hunt, when that bull stepped out of the trees, how far away was he?
I think he was only like 70 yards away.
Oh, wow. Excellent. Yeah. And how did you prepare for the shot? Did you have shooting sticks or a backpack, or what did you do to get ready?
Yeah, so I was kind of leaned up against the tree, but I also had my shooting stick.
And you had time to deploy them and get steady on them?
Yeah. No, I really like to take my time and make sure that it's going to be a good shot. So
yeah, I'd rather
especially with the moose, I don't need to injure a moose and go trying to find them in the bush.
Absolutely. I'd rather have one good, confident shot than a number of them where it's helter-skelter.
Yeah. One with moose too, it's like I did shoot him twice in the vitals, but they're so tough that the first one, he just stood there.
Yeah, I'm often in the same situation where the first one likely did the job and very efficiently, but if it's still on its feet, I put a second one in for the sake of the animal and to guarantee that I don't have to do any tracking. And then how much work is it to actually get a moose out of the bush?
Yeah, luckily we were able to like get fairly close with the truck. But yeah, it's a lot of work. It's so heavy.
Yeah, it's certainly different than doing a deer, isn't it?
Yeah. We've started like deboning animals too in the field, just because it's just a lot easier to manage them rather than. Well, also too, just like deboning them's kind of nice because then you don't risk like the guts going everywhere and stuff. So that's a technique that we've kind of started using more recently.
Yeah,
but,
I like boning things out in the field. You have a lot less to bring home, a lot less to deal with after you're done butchering. And, I don't know if you listened to the earlier episode about meat care where we talked about wet aging, but I've gone to wet aging animals, so having the muscle groups removed makes it super easy to vacuum seal them and put them in the fridge. And getting things done after the hunt is just very quick and efficient.
Yeah. Time is definitely something that we never had to ever worry about because it was always much colder when we would be hunting. But since living in southern Alberta, we've had to really hustle sometimes.
Yeah, you get a lot warmer temperatures.
Cool. Yeah.
And so what do you do different when it's warm out?
Well, so what we do, so we don't have a truck yet. So we've been putting animals in our SUV. We've even put geese in our we have this thing on top of the vehicle. I forget what those are called, but to store stuff. So we put stuff up there, or we put it in the vehicle. We usually just poly the vehicle because I don't want blood in my vehicle. But we bring these big tubs and we freeze ice cream pails, just like ice blocks.
Yeah,
put them in there.
That's important and efficient. I actually do that with my decoy trailer too. I've got a nice trailer to haul things around, but when you harvest birds, I put them in the tub just to keep everything clean and efficient and easy to move them all around when you're done.
Yeah.
This podcast was made possible by Alberta Conservation Association and the Harvest Your Own community. If you're interested in harvesting your own food, there's a comprehensive collection of information to gain insight and knowledge. Head to the field, harvest your own protein, prepare it, and taste the results. HarvestYourOwn.ca is a library of information from getting started and geared up to processing, butchering, and cooking wild game to make the connection between health and food.
I'm going to take you to your next hunt. You've also hunted mule deer.
Yeah.
And how did that go?
Yeah.
Where were you? What happened?
Yeah, so mule deer hunting, there wasn't a lot of mule deer where we hunted in the boreal. There would be like a small group, but didn't really mule deer hunt until we moved to southern Alberta.
Yeah.
I guess I bow hunted mule deer too in the Edmonton area, but yeah, mule deer hunting down here has been really fun and different. Yeah, more recently I got mule deer buck a couple of years ago, and that was really fun. My husband and I had just went out for a Saturday hunt, hoping I was going to get a buck. The expectations weren't high. We were just happy to be outside. And yeah, after scoping the area, after we arrived, we spotted a buck that was chasing a doe and decided to make a move. And the buck had went into this coulee draw system, and we really had to use the wind direction and our knowledge of the area to guess where he would have went, since this coulee system branched out in several different spots, and it was quite steep in some of the spots too. And yeah, it always just surprises me how quickly deer can move through a coulee system.
Or disappear.
It was kind of nerve-wracking. What, sorry?
Or disappear.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it was just kind of nerve-wracking to not know if he was going to be around each bend. But then finally around one bend, he was there facing away from me, standing just above a creek. And I still can't believe how quickly I managed to get on the ground, set up with the shooting stick and made the shot. But I'll never forget the sound he made when he fell into the creek.
A bit of a splash?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like bucks in the rut can be heavy, but a buck in the rut that was drenched in water was something else. But
No
thankfully
doubt.
we were able to pull him out and debone him there. But the pack out was tough for sure, not going to lie.
Well,
I'm used to hunting in the boreal where the terrain is a lot more flat. Like people think the grasslands are flat, but some of the coulee systems are not.
yeah, some of the coulees are as steep as hunting in the mountains.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really important to know how to debone a critter when you're doing that. Could you imagine having to drug the deer back up that hill through all the cactus and all the other stuff? It would have been such a huge chore.
Just even to pull him out of the creek was a lot of work, and that was only like a few feet.
Yeah, interesting. Now, you said it was a spur of the moment hunt. You just went out to have fun, be outdoors. You were successful. Had you done anything previously to prepare for that hunt? You said you had some knowledge of the area.
Yeah, so Sam had hunted that area the previous year, so we were both kind of familiar with the area, familiar with the landowner. Yeah, so it wasn't too much work. The landowner was super nice and had no problem with us going out again. So
yeah, having good landowner relations is critical sometimes, and you know, I know from experience that when you take the time to go and talk to them, get to know them a little bit, get them to know you, which is even more important. Quite often they become friends. You know, I've got lots of landowners that phone me, "Hey, we got geese in the field. If you can get out here, you know, it looks like it's good to go."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, some landowners that even my dad's even just become a little bit closer with. Like sometimes these landowners, you know, need help with something on their farm, and you know, we'll go out and help them for the afternoon, just do something, just show our appreciation.
Yeah, nice. That's going back to those farm roots. You can take the boy off the farm, but yeah, they always want to get back there and do something.
Yeah.
You say you're also a bow hunter. When did you get into bow hunting and shooting a bow?
Yeah, so that was after I had met Sam. Yeah, because I never bow hunted before, but he had always been a bow hunter. So yeah, shortly after we started dating, I went and bought a bow, and yeah, I got to go out with him a few times, and I've actually harvested 2 mule deer bucks with my bow.
Nice, very impressive.
From a tree stand, yeah.
Just for curiosity's sake, how long did it take you to get proficient with the bow?
I guess it definitely, like, I didn't get anything my first season, and we would practice quite a bit, but like in all honesty, where we were hunting with the tree stand, the shots, I never made a shot that was more than 15 yards, so it wasn't too difficult that way. I've been bow hunting down south and have been not successful yet, because you can't a lot harder to get that close.
Pretty open.
Sorry, go ahead.
I said it's pretty open country.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, my problem, too, is I get super, super nervous when I'm that close to an animal. So
Right.
I actually blacked out one time when
Oh, wow.
I was stalking out here with my bow. So.
Yeah. It is exciting, and sometimes it's really hard to focus and channel that energy into being steady. And, you know, a lot of people call it buck fever, but it is so exciting being that close that it's hard to explain that to people. And I think it's one of the reasons we go back and want more. It's that shot of adrenaline and excitement and everything that is created in your body from those experiences.
Yeah. So even just like for me, like just practicing getting that close to animals so that I can, you know, really calm down in the moment, because you can like pretty much hear them breathing and see every little movement that they're making. It's very crazy being that close to an animal.
It is. Yeah. So it sounds like when you took up archery, you got a new bow and you practiced lots, but you know, I'm sure you didn't start at 40 pounds. You probably started lower than that, but practice. And before you knew it, and it didn't take long, you were ready to hunt.
Yep. I think I started off at like 35 pounds and just worked my way up to whatever the legal requirement was at the time. 40
pounds. Yeah. Well, that's a good message, because a lot of people say, well, I'd love to get into archery, but it just takes way too long to get started. You know,
definitely the practice is probably the most time consuming.
Right. And I was going to say that, you know, the more you practice, the less time it takes. And what you might find is once you pick up a bow and start practicing, you know, if you're like me, it's once you pick it up every year, it's like, oh, I want to go shoot my bow. And it's fun. I go out in the backyard here with the girls, and the whole family has bows, and we all shoot and quite enjoy it. So it's recreational time on those days when you're real busy and can't go do something somewhere else, but it takes 5-10 minutes to go do it.
And honestly, too, just like bringing your target, like when you're going out for your hunt and you just parked, like just take like 2 or 3 shots with your bow just before you just like go out. And I feel like that can make a huge difference too.
It provides the confidence to know that you're on target.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it really does get you prepared mentally. I got a big question for you.
Sure.
Why do you hunt?
I think definitely like probably food is the number one reason. It's just really rewarding to be able to acquire food off the land, and it's comforting to know where the meat comes from. But it's also just really fun and a relaxing way to spend time in nature.
Yeah, putting up your own meat, once you start doing it, it is so rewarding that it's hard to explain to people, but it becomes a passion pretty quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, and like we make all our own, like we like butcher and process all our own animals. So like there's no opening the freezer door and there's roasts and steaks and sausage and burgers, and then knowing that we just made that all, like it's really nice.
Yeah, it's funny how intimate you become with your diet, because you cut it up, you know what each roast is and what it'll look like and how big they are, and it really changes your diet and meal planning.
Yes, for sure.
You know, it sounds like you've had lots of experience, bow hunting, rifle hunting, you're chasing birds, you're doing all kinds of stuff. What is your favorite thing to hunt?
I honestly don't know if I could pick just one, because just even then, like, it's not just which species, but like every hunt you can like pick up on individual traits that make the hunt interesting. And some of my favorite times hunting are just watching wildlife do their thing and wonder what they're thinking. But if I had to pick, I'd probably say moose. Because I love the excitement and challenge of hunting them. Yeah,
and there's sometimes you get more interaction with one species than the other. I know it's a tough question when people ask me that. It's like, well, it's whatever I'm hunting on any given day, because it's hard to pick one, and each has its own rewards, and each is quite different.
Yeah, but then it's like but then when you're duck hunting and that, you know, duck's coming in with his feet out to land, like then that's the most exciting.
Exactly. Yeah, you get rewards in different ways.
For sure.
You have a new family on the way. You know, you said in December. How important is it going to be to have a youngster along with you in the field to pass on this knowledge maybe take you back to some of your First Nations roots and back to what where your family started and what you did with them, and help procure your own proteins and fill the freezer.
Yeah, so this is really important to my husband and I, with both of us being so heavily involved in the outdoor lifestyle, because both a personal choice and career choice. I don't think our children will have much choice but to be exposed to it. But I just hope for our children first to learn to love the land and respect it, and then be able to understand how to appreciate it by obtaining and using its resources.
Yeah, I honestly think that it empowers our children when we take them out. They have, when you talked about your knowledge of moose and looking for tracks and counting the tracks and knowing where they cut through and which bush they were going to, I go out with our girls that are 5 years old and, stand in the driveway and they're like, oh, there's specklebellies flying over and, oh, there's sandhill cranes. And, they know everything, and it sort of elevates their education. It gives them an education besides the one they get in school. And you just can't replace that with anything else.
Yeah, no, it's really special, I think.
Yeah, well, it's a great way to acknowledge your family and continue traditions and do things with family. I'm sure that your family's still close, and do you get out with them hunting at all still?
Yeah, I actually have my mom and dad planned this fall, and I'll be 7 months pregnant. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Hopefully it will be successful, but might be tough.
You'll make it work. I guarantee it. Yeah.
Yeah.
One last question for you that we always like to ask. What is your favorite wild game or recipe?
So I have a few. My husband makes the dry venison bites from Harvest Your Own, and those are so good.
They are, aren't they?
And then duck poppers are also one of my new favorites.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah, those, you can't go wrong with either one of those.
No, they're so good. Sometimes we'll just make that and just have that for supper because it's just so good.
Well, I really appreciate your attitude towards everything. Have you got any advice for other young women or, that are getting married or just married and wanting to do this and have a family? Is there any advice you have for them to embrace the lifestyle and make sure they include kids and look forward to it and all the rest?
Yeah, I would say that just because children are going to be a part of your life, don't let that stop you. I'm going hunting 7 months pregnant. My mom harvested a bull elk when I was less than a year old, and I think that the younger you can expose your kids to these things, the more likely they may be to accept it and take interest in it. But it definitely has to come with teaching and understanding and appreciation of where the food comes from, on top of respecting the land. And just make sure that you're scheduling the time to do these things, because I know if I don't schedule things in advance, that's probably not going to happen. But I always prioritize hunting season.
And that's a great way to look at it. The important things in life you always make time for.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing your messages on Harvest Your Own. You create excitement in me. I want to get out hunting. I want to get back out with my family. And I wish you all the best for you and your husband and your new family on the way. And best of luck this season.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We hope to inspire people to reconnect with nature and appreciate where your food comes from by harvesting your own. For more information on getting started or to learn specifics about the Field to Fork experience, visit harvestyourown.ca and follow on Facebook and Instagram. Check back often for new material, recipes, and videos that are posted regularly. Please subscribe to Harvest Your Own podcast and take the time to rate and review the show to help us build a dedicated core of passionate hunters as our regular audience. Until next time, embrace the outdoors and all it has to offer. Thanks for joining us.